Hey everybody, today we're going to do a simple sprocket in AutoCAD 2012. So let's jump right in. We're going to go ahead and create a sprocket drawing and the model, and we're also going to do a little bit of setup in the layout tab. So if you wanted to actually print out your sprocket drawing as a drawing, mechanical drawing, you can. So anyways, let's get started, and this is just going to be a fairly simple tutorial using extrude, some drawing techniques and tools. So we'll start with a simple circle, and I'm going to turn on my snaps so I can snap to the grid. I'm going to start my circle there in the center, and I'm going to type in 20 for my diameter. So there's 20 inches, and we're going to create another circle here at the top and let it snap to the very top of that circle in the grid. We could go in and control right click and tell it to use a quadrant. We could do that too, but for now we'll just snap there, and this will be a diameter of 2, so type in 2. So this is one of the circles we're going to use to array around as the concave part of the tooth. So let's do an array command. So type in array, select our objects, which is the circle, and we could do a polar array and array this around a certain number of times. But for this tutorial, I'm going to use a path array because it has a feature where you can tell it to fill a certain amount, so we're not left over with any gaps or any extra space left over at the end of our count. So it'll actually fill an equal amount of spaces between each circle. So I'm going to select the path curve, and this is my circle. Enter the number of items along the path. Let's try 20. Divide evenly along the path, yes. And there we go. So now we have 20 circles divided evenly along this circle. So accept that. And once it creates that array in AutoCAD 2012, it makes all those circles as one object. So you can see here, whenever I choose one circle, it highlights all of them. So now we need to go in and start using our trim tool to start trimming out some of these teeth. Unfortunately, we have to explode all these circles because it won't let us trim all of them as one object. We could actually go in and extrude the circles and boolean all these circles out of the larger circle in a boolean solid. So we could go that route. So there's a lot of different ways you could go about doing this. But for now, we're just going to go through and start trimming. So we're going to first explode these circles here so that they're individual circles. So now we can do our trim. So type in trim and right click to accept all the objects as cutting edges, and then just start going in and just start trimming out all of these, doing the outside of the smaller circles and inside of the large diameter of the circle of the large circle. Alright, so there's our sprocket outline. So we want to make our centerpiece. So I'm going to go back to circle, Go in and draw my center circle. I'm going to say 5 as my diameter. And I'm also going to draw in the keyhole for our circle so that it will fit on a shaft. And of course, if you're going to be drawing this by specifications, you would need to know all the measurements of the diameter, keyhole size, etc. But for this, we're just going to go in and make it whatever size we want to. So there's the keyhole for my shaft. And I'm going to make all these one object since they're all individual lines now. So I'm going to type in P edit for poly edit. And I'm going to do multiple selection. So I'm going to select all these, right click to when I want, and ask me, do I want to convert these lines to polylines? Yes. Y. Enter. And I want to join. Type in join. Enter. And enter. So now all of these lines have been joined as one continuous polyline. So I'm going to hold shift down and middle mouse button to orbit, just so I can get a sort of a perspective view of this. And I'm going to type in extrude, select objects to extrude. I'm going to select the shaft hole first, extrude it up, just any amount, because this is actually what we're going to use to boolean out the hole from the larger sprocket. So to see this better, I'm going to go up here to my 2D wireframe in the upper left hand corner of my screen where it says 2D wireframe. Click on that and say shaded. So now I've got a shaded view of my solid object. And I'm going to type in extrude again, or I can go up here to the drop down list in my preset modes, and I can go into 3D modeling, the 3D modeling mode. And now I've got extrude options here that if you're kind of like me and you're a button person who likes to use the buttons in software instead of typing everything in, then you can use those buttons here. So you have extrude faces, extrude edges, etc. You also have a 3D basics where you can go in and where we're going to do our boolean from. So for this, we're going to say extrude that sprocket outline, enter. And for extrusion height, I want to say 0.75, so 3/4 of an inch. And now I'm going to boolean out this shaft hole out of the sprocket. So I want to say subtract from the sprocket, selected, right click, and then select my shaft and subtract. So again, let me just run through that again. So I said subtract in my boolean option, selected the sprocket, right click to accept that, select the object I want to extract. So I select this extruded shaft hole and right click to accept that, and then it just cut that out of my sprocket. Alright, so now I've got my model. I can go to the layout tab, and I'm actually going to get rid of this default viewport that it gives us. I'm going to select it and right click and delete it. And I'm going to use some of the new tools in AutoCAD 2012 for layouts. So I'm going to go back up here to my modes, drafting and annotation, and I'm going to go to annotate. Over here at the end is a base view, and it's going to be calculating a little bit. Now I'm looking at my extruded sprocket from the side, so I'm just going to put it there, enter, and then there's my other view. I actually want it up above, so I'm going to put it there, and then kind of a perspective view out to the side, and then right click to enter that. So now I'm going to move all this down here since I've got it off of my screen. And you want to keep these lined up so that just in case you want to create some center lines, you can do that. I'll pull this over to the side here. Alright, so here's a real simple drawing of my sprocket. And if I wanted to, I could go in and start doing some annotations, put in some linear dimensions or some radial or diameter dimensions. I could put in a height here for with using a linear dimension. So there we've got a basic drawing here of a simplified sprocket. But you could take that into a shop and actually have it built directly from these specifications if you wanted to. So hope you got something out of this tutorial and enjoyed it, and come back for more tutorials from Osmosis Training. Thank you.